Greetings and welcome to another video. After 2 years of waiting and 1 expansion of training and gearing up our characters, it is about time to look into solo farming trials and raids again. And to get those mounts that we always wanted. But unlike last time, I will explain all you need to know to defeat bosses and clear encounters, as we got a bunch of really tough challenges ahead. So, queue up for a chill alliance raid, enjoy a delicious meal or a very long and patient tea or coffee. And let's get started. The whole idea of farming mounts solo is to make use of the unrestricted party feature that the game offers, which lets us participate in all sorts of trial and raid content from the past while retaining our present power level. So for example, I did basically all of these trials with my item level 730 Machinist, 718 Summoner, 729 Dark Knight or 729 Warrior. But on the DPS side you can primarily choose the one you feel the most comfortable with, and item level doesn't have to be that high. Except for Ruby Extreme maybe. Especially for the first entries, things are very quick and easy. Only some Stormblood trials and especially the Shadowbringers raids and trials are stepping up the difficulty level very quickly. But starting with a variety of cool horse mounts that you can receive from their respective extreme trials in Realm Reborn, where you will be fighting some of the most iconic primals of the Final Fantasy universe. Though when talking about fighting, it is more like snapping their lights out with our current power level, as you really need one big crit for them to fall. So before trying to make an educated guess on which horse to get, just get them all together, as this won't take more than 1 hour of snapping these bosses. The Nightmare mount on top is actually the one with the lowest drop chance, but you will receive it while farming naturally. Upon earning all of these, take a quest called A Legend for a Legend from the Wandering Minstrel in Mordona that will grant you access to the special horse named Kirin. After that, the difficulty level steps up slightly to the Heavensward Birds, where some of them have really badass particle animations and colors. They all can be easily cleared with whatever job you have access to, but there are a couple of things that you should know before getting annoyed by the farming process. Starting with the Rose Lana, which is the easiest to get, as you just have to participate in a quick tete-a-tete with Ravana. That doesn't even reach the first stage of its mechanic, as we're obliterating him with eager swiftness. However, the color tone is worth every second of farming this, and totems can be exchanged in Idleshire for weapons or gimmicks on all trials mentioned besides this one. The White Lana received from Bismarck Extreme is definitely the most annoying of the bunch, as you simply have to wait for combat stages to change. Starting with killing ads, then making sure to have sprint available that you're able to activate those harpoon cannons in time, so make sure to not get hit by AoEs while doing so. Afterwards, jump onto Bismarck to go into phase 2. Here make sure to kill one of those dragon serpents as soon as possible, as they will tether with a damage immune effect when you're too slow, but don't worry, this had been done in Stormblood already. Afterwards wait until new ads spawn, then harpoon time again and jump back on Bismarck afterwards. It will just take some time, but it is technically easy too. The Round Lana then is received from the Thornton fight in Extreme, and I haven't managed to kill him in this first phase, but I guess it will still trigger all the stages afterwards, so keep killing all the knights, dodge stuff and enjoy the visual spectacle. It is a very cool mount for a simple fight now that is a test of endurance like Bismarck is. Coming to the Dark Lana, this one might be my favorite on the color scheme and overall design, and the best about this, the fight is easy as well. Just queue up for Nidhogg Extreme and blast him down as quickly as you can. There's really nothing you need to be careful with in Dawntrail, but if you're not there yet but still want these mounts, make sure to check out my previous videos with the matching power level that I had back in the days. The kinda same ease of completion can be applied to the Warring Lana for Sephiroth, which now has become very simple fight that you just have to finish as quickly as you can, kill some ads and dodge the spike in the final stage and finish him off. The next one actually had me fighting a couple of hours back in Shadowbringers, however with Dawntrail power level you simply have to face Sophia as raw as you can and get rewarded with the Sophic Lana upon defeating her a couple of times. Just make sure to hit your knockback immunity skill on her phase transition or you will be kicked off the platform. The final Lana on Zervan actually took me quite some time back in the days when I did this challenge the last time. However, now you can easily burst him off, just that the transition is scripted and can't be avoided unfortunately. Just tip him afterwards and he is no more. After all Lanas have been collected, you can find a new quest called Fiery Wings, Fiery Hearts, which will grant you access to the Firebird mount, so that all the annoying waiting time on Bismarck and Thornton isn't wasted. Coming to the Savage raids in Heavensward, where only 2 of the Alexander Savage raids have mounts available. The first being received in the Burden of the Father Savage, where this boss is still a bit tricky and you have to make sure that you keep your big burst for the last remaining leg, because you need to kill it within 3 to 4 seconds, otherwise you will be hit with a debuff that is an instant kill even in Dawntrail. The Gobwalker might still be interesting to some players, and if you're a mount collector, there is no excuse to not add this to your collection. The next one, called Arrhidaeus, is still worth the minimal effort due to how cool your character is hanging on his back. Just queue up Alexander, Soul of the Creator Savage, and blast Alexander off in no time. There's really nothing you need to worry about here. Kill adds with Cleave and AoE, and then Alexander again. No difficulty anymore for Dawntrail power levels. Alright, let's come to the Stormblood trials, which have changed quite significantly as well. Unfortunately, the Susano Extreme fight can still be solo to this point in time, but that might change with 1 or 2 more expansions. On Lakshmi and the Blissful Kamuy though, things have changed quite significantly. The whole fight can be executed with quick succession, even by just using any DPS job without any notable self-healing capabilities. The most notable change, however, is on Shinryu Extreme. This challenge can be soloed as DPS now, because Shinryu actually doesn't have that much uptime. Just make sure to not get knocked off the platform by preventing the tail swing to destroy already broken platforms. Then dodge the icicles in the back and make sure to get knocked off to the second platform on the phase transition. I actually recommend going in with a DPS job for the increased speed of clearing it and a faster farming process for the awesome legendary Kamuy. Just before the next wave of wolf mounts, the Great Hunt Extreme awaits. That is a bit painful due to how your damage output diminishes in the last phase. Make sure to burst in as much damage as you can into Rathalos, and when adds appear, only switch to the big body to turn it into a heat wall against Rathalos Fire Breath. Afterwards, your damage will be significantly reduced and your completion time now heavily depends on how much damage you have pushed into him before. Try to avoid standing in front of Rathalos and use your potions, and don't forget to loot him unlike other bosses. The NPCs for trading in the scales are found in Kugani. And before coming to the next Kamuys, make sure to farm the final story dungeon of Stormblood, which will grant you this awesome Magitek mount as well. This can be done easily with basically any job and very quickly as well. Next up, there's Byakko with the Auspicious Kamuy. Unfortunately, you have to play a tank to solo this boss, as the State of Shock mechanic will crush you as DPS. At least it did it on my machinist. Maybe a bulky Samurai or Reaper can do it, or even healers with big shields, but I highly recommend going in with a tank, as it's very simple from that perspective. Just use a solid mitigation after he grabbed you the first time and you're good to go. By the way, check out Console Games Wiki how to unlock these trials if you haven't done that in Stormblood already. If I remember correctly, it should start on Soroban in the Ruby Sea. The mysteriously pretty Lunar Kamuy, found in one of the best extreme trials until now, is now soloable in Dawntrail. I have a full run through video for it, but basically you have to hold your burst back a bit at the start to let Tsukuyomi begin with her casting sequence, and afterwards keep accumulating all your resources in the add phase to burst her down in the second phase, while balancing out moon debuffs. I'm not sure how much gear is required for this, but you should at least get some catch-up gear and try aiming towards a 720 item level for this, just to be sure. Okay, next up we have one of my toughest challenges in Endwalker, featuring Susaku, with the beautiful Euphonious Kamuy, which is actually quite doable as DPS now. The adds are a bit problematic, as they will wipe you from the battlefield when they're not getting killed. The trick here though, you can actually avoid that they get resurrected in the first place by just sniping down the big feather in the center. This will allow you to start into the second phase, where it is simply dodging using your anti-knockback on Melody or the alternative, and keep smashing in some serious numbers, because you want her dead before the tank buster happens, as this will crush you. But it's really not a big deal, and damage output should be sufficient even with basic Endwalker endgame gear. Seiryu, granting access to the Hallowed Kamuy, is also doable as DPS now. Just try to avoid everything you can, and especially don't let yourself be knocked into the water, as this will give you a debuff with which the Stack Buster will kill you. If I remember correctly, only the second Stack Buster needs serious mitigation, so as long as you don't get to that later stage, you should be fine. Alright, things are getting spicier now, so let us hop into Neo X Death Savage, which is quite easy to beat solo now, but I still recommend going in with a tank or healer, as some mechanics need to be healed up later on. However, the whole action starts on the second phase. Make sure that you stand correctly on Grand Crosser, which will confuse you for a moment and make you walk into a certain direction. Then make sure to stand on the correct side on Flood of Naught, and always stick to the boss afterwards for the many knockbacks coming. I mean, I have no single clue what these mechanics do exactly, but I could clear that fight in 3 tries, so it's really not a tough one. The next one, God Kefka, can now be defeated as Paladin or Dark Knight as well. You just have to time shields properly to avoid getting hit during the Heartless Archangel phase and heal up before the follow-up attacks hit you. It's actually a very fun challenge to do solo, but if you just want the Air Force mount, play a warrior and this fight is easily dealt with. Alright, last but not least on Stormblood we have the Model O Mount, which is found within the Omega Alphascape encounter. This fight is indeed soloable now, but yet I only managed to do it as warrior. Everything important happens on the first phase, so you're able to repeat this quickly and learn the proper timings of your mitigations. Just start the fight and smash in your burst opener, then move to the right side dodging the ice line attack. While running to the side, make sure to use mitigations already, as Omega will use a very powerful tank killer attack. Then Omega M will gender swap and knock you back. Make sure to stay focused now. Once the tank buster appears, go to the left and pop those mitigations that you still have left over, which should be sufficient for you to survive, but don't use Holmgang yet, as you will need it very soon afterwards. Now make sure to burst another wave of damage into the right target, as one of them will be immune to your attacks. And when Omega casts Enhanced Suppression, use Holmgang to survive the otherwise deadly series of hits coming at you. Heal up afterwards and make sure to dodge their mechanics as best as you can, and then enjoy the phase 2, which is kinda self-explanatory and doesn't throw deadly mechanics at you, just stuff you blink away as the powerful warrior that you are. Okay folks, this is where everything shifts a bit and the true challenges await. I mean, not on every single boss, but the Shadowbringers trials are very fun to do solo, except for Emerald Weapon, but let's start chronologically. You kinda love or hate her, but the fight is actually quite manageable as tank. To start with Titania Extreme and basically ignoring all the ads, just try to stand in one puddle at least. Otherwise you will burn. Just make sure to use proper mitigation on the stack attack, as this will hit like a truck. On the tether mechanic, don't worry too much, as it doesn't hurt anywhere close to how it did back in Shadowbringers. Just for Fae lights you should be using something, not like I did here, but it still worked, so. The ad phase is also very simple. Kill ads from west to north to east and dodge line AoEs, and don't let those ads come close together. Then on bigger is better ads, repeat that and make sure to not get knocked off by the vines spawning in certain order. Just stand exactly where I'm standing in the video here. Alright, the final piece of the puzzle is another blue genie mechanic. This time stand in the puddle again, but keep your mitigation at hand, as this will hit way harder now, as you will burn now. And I have not yet figured out how to avoid that, but it works by just using the appropriate amount of mitigations. Afterwards, gear up for another Fae Light series and strike her last HP down and enjoy your pretty fairy dragon mount. Oh, by the way, I just got this pretty little dancing wing on my first kill, which sold for 350k on my server. So this might actually be another really neat solution to earn some gil in the process. The pretty boy Innocence. Actually quite simple, but lots of stuff to dodge, that are kinda self-explanatory but also very confusing. Here I highly suggest being a warrior for the raw passive healing potential and some big bursts for the ad phase, because this is where all the music plays. You have to be very quick in killing them, as they tether together and reduce incoming damage quite significantly. But there's a remedy, as you can drag them around the arena constantly and you will have moments where they get untethered again, so use that time to end their existence quickly. Other than that, it's basically just tanking, healing up again and showing Innocence that beauty isn't strong, but the power of your mighty axes. When doing this multiple times, you are rewarded with the Innocent Gwiber, or might have to trade in lots of totems if you're very unlucky. The next bosses in line are not soloable, unfortunately, as the Hades Ascian Prime phase is not doable at the moment, and the Warrior of Light will roadblock your progress at least on the Force Tank LB3, which you don't have at your disposal. The kinda same applies to inherently fatal mechanics on E8S and E12S, where we're missing some decent amounts of maximum HP to stay alive yet, but I will of course update the series once we have grown in power. But it's not the end, my friends. There are 4 more challenges ahead that take this solo encounter thing to a whole new level. Ruby Weapon Extreme. Yes, this took me quite some time to figure out, but I did manage to kill it with my summoner. As you really need a handful of bursts in the second phase to actually get further with your progress, as well as some decent self-healing to stay alive on top of that. But first things first. Phase 1 starts quite simply by dodging mechanics and trying to avoid as many stacks as possible, but fear not, once you cleared the first stage you can repeatedly begin at the second. However, you might be needing the echo buff, and I'm not entirely sure that you can accumulate it when you haven't died after 3 minutes in the first phase at least once, so check this out for yourself if you're blasting through P1 without any issue. Okay, phase 2 has 2 essential hurdles, the first being the ads that tether quickly after they have been summoned, so you must burn them down before that happens. On top of that, the enrage mechanic is earlier than on doing it normally, as we only have time until the big meteor comes down, which is definitely not easy to pull off without the proper gear, which also makes tanks incapable of soloing this fight yet. Secondly, the incoming damage is too high for jobs like Machinist, so you need something with bursty self-healing, presenting to us the Summoner. While my Machinist is having the better gear, I could manage to kill Ruby X in time. But to achieve that, you have to nail your timing with burst on the Raven's images, or just be super lucky with crits to avoid the tether taking action and use your anti-knockback on Lunar Dynamo. Then make use of your shield or self-healing and keep pushing damage into Ruby weapon while not dying. Ruby then needs to die before the big meteor comes crashing down, which happened many times on my tries, so optimize your gear and rotation, beat this Garlean monstrosity, and enjoy your big fat tacos while doing so. Alright, Emerald weapon, this boss won't be my friend, I guess. Or it is just my ping here in Germany. However, there is a way to beat this boss with wiggling those orbs to hit you just in the right time. But this is insanely difficult to do, and I highly recommend checking out the full kill video and guide of MrHappy, who did manage to achieve that. It is somehow doable, but he mentioned that you need a certain ping and server tick timing to make it happen. I would highly recommend doing it with 2 people to not hate yourself too much for trying it solo. Diamond weapon though is actually quite easy, just make sure that you use your teleportation orbs correctly and keep your anti-knockback for whenever you're getting confused or in trouble with your positioning. I mostly used it on the Ori Arts mechanic, where you use it on the side hops and then just track to which side Diamond is jumping towards. You might have to try this out for yourself a couple of times, but if you did this boss back in Shadowbringers, you should have no issue in defeating it. Okay, now to the final challenge, Eden's Gate 4 Savage. Right now, this is only doable as Dark Knight as far as the mechanics go, because you will be needing your simulacrum to defeat the stone prison in the second phase, and other jobs with pets can't reach that stage due to their lack of defensive survivability. So let us start this one piece by piece, as nearly every step and move has to sit right here to beat it. On the first phase, you will be taking up the whole fight in its true origin, as you want to avoid basically all mechanics as best as you can. Each and every Vuln stack can make the difference between loss and victory. So first use your mitigation, TBN for example, for the first Stone Crusher Tank Buster. Then dodge the Stone Burst patterns as best as you can. After some tries you will get used to the patterns, so don't worry. Depending on what pattern you get, Geocrush can be anti-knockbacked or has to be dealt with in the usual way by walking towards the impact area to not get knocked off the arena. Afterwards, Titan will go into either Mario Kart mode or Giga Drill Breaker mode. The first is tricky as you need to walk slightly towards the end of the direction he's facing, but not in line of him. Then use mitigation for the 2 markers and charge in to avoid getting hit with the aftermath explosions. For the fault line attack, make sure to have mitigation there too. The second pattern works in the opposite way. Stand in line with his facing direction, tank the bursts, and move outwards after that, then back to his hitbox, and after that you will be marked with bomb boulders. They are actually avoidable by using TBN on their explosions, but placing them apart from each other makes things easier. As then you can tank Titan at 1 rock, wait for the seismic wave attack to start, and use TBN to soak the small rock explosions. You won't receive Vuln stacks if just 1 or 2 explosions hit you, so don't worry too much. Alright, if you've done it and made it to the second phase, this is where the whole fun begins. Make sure that your Living Dead is ready and don't use Salted Earth or Living Shadow before the stone prison happened. Dodge smash and explosion patterns accordingly, and on the blue marker in combination with the knockback, use as many mitigations as you can, but keep Living Dead for the next big hit, which will then follow inside of the seismic platform phase. As soon as you're focused with the orange and blue marker together, use your Living Dead to avoid getting killed here. And on Plate Fracture, this is where you must be a Dark Knight to solve this mechanic. As you're getting wrapped up in a stone prison, someone needs to rescue from that prison, which will be your Salted Earth and Living Shadow. So make sure to stand on the correct side of platforms, which is indicated by the way Titan is leaning back. As you can see here in the video, he will be aiming at one of the lefternmost platforms. But regardless of his first choice, the second and third hit are a bit luck dependent, which could cause you to lose here just randomly. But anyways, to the timing, at around 70% of the fracture cast you should use your Salted Earth and Living Shadow, so that both enter on the right time to free you from your earthenly prison. Here make sure that you always choose the spots on the left or right side and the front of Titan on each platform according to Titan's movement, because of how your simulacrum will interact with the hit zone of Titan. This is mandatory to cause its attacks to hit your prison as well. Just try to get there comfortably and you have plenty of tries to work this out. It's just a bit RNG dependent when Titan might hit your platform on the second punch. After you're being released, go back to the safe platform in the back and keep mitigations at hand, as you will soon be needing them again. Now tank and spank a bit more and wait for the second stone prism that you now just wait off patiently, as no platform is getting destroyed while hanging in there. On the next blue and orange marker combination, you need every mitigation you have at your disposal to survive that hit, so make sure to use them in the right order and be prepared to heal up afterwards by maybe keeping Carve and Spit or Soul Eater ready. Following this, it is simply Titan Savage and you have to dodge Plate Fracture again, avoid getting killed by another orange and blue marker by using TBN and the rest of your mitigation, which now doesn't hit as hard as before. Then going into phase 3, where the small titan is thrown back in your face and you have to dodge some more ground explosions, but also some orange and yellow marker combinations where you should always have some mitigation ready. The ground AoEs are actually not that difficult, try to move with them as they explode and you're good to go. Then on the second knockback combined with the blue marker, you need Living Dead again, so be careful with your GCD timings to heal up right in time. Now keep up some tanking and spanking and have your TBN ready for any time the marker is coming, together with more tile explosions. Then you will have another wave of charged fist smashes that you have to dodge, followed by the last stone crusher where some more mitigation is required. And that's it. Quite a boss fight if you're doing it solo, but actually something I really enjoyed while filming this footage. If you happen to have a Dark Knight available at max level with decent gear, I highly recommend to try it out for yourself. After all that hard work, enjoy your flying bathtub and all the other mounts before. That's it for a whole bunch of soloable mounts for now, and if I forgot something, let me know in the comments and I will try out some more challenges for the next video, as well as checking some of the options here again when we rise in power level on the next patches or expansions. So enjoy the mounts you can already farm and stick around for the next part. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy and keep loving Final Fantasy.